my book and wax friends. Welcome to my channel and to my 25 books in 2025 that I would like to prioritize reading. So I thought this would be a fun video to do, to give you a list of books that I'm like, I want to get to them, whether they're sequels, whether they're ones that have been on my TBR for a long time, whether they're classics that I've just been meaning to read for a while. So these are some books that I want to make a point of reading during this new year. So let's jump into it. There is no order. There's no like, this is my number one book I want to read type of thing or anything like that. So let's just jump into it and discuss. The first one on my list is one that has been on my TBR for quite a while, and he has become one that's been talked about in BookTube for quite a lot recently, and that is Brandon Sanderson, his Mistborn series. So the first book is called The Final Empire in the Mistborn series. And so I want to jump into it. I tried to read Tress of the Emerald Sea, which I do want to get to as well, back over the summer, but I ended up not getting to it. And that's not even true. I read, I think, like the first couple pages, and then I soft DNF'd it. I just didn't end up having time, and so I was like, I'll get to it in the future. Well, the Mistborn saga, part of his Cosmere universe, has been one that's been on my, like I said, TBR forever. And so I was like, I want to get to it. I want to dive headlong into his Cosmere universe. And so this year is going to be the year that I start. So that is the first. Number two is a classic, Dracula by Bram Stoker. I have never read Dracula, even though I'm a huge fan of vampire books. I've never gotten around to reading that one, and that's kind of, I was going to say that's the one that started it all, but there's actually a book that came out before that. What is that one called? Carmilla? I can't remember. That came out like the year before Dracula or something like that, I think. That was actually technically the first vampire book, but Dracula is the one that everyone knows. And so that's the one I want to read. So I'm going to read Dracula in 2025, or I'm going to try to get to it. I'll probably save that till October is what I'm feeling. Then number three is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. That is another classic that I have never read. I know a lot about it, but I've actually never taken the time to read Jane Eyre. So this year, 2025, is going to be the year that I read it. I've heard so many wonderful things about it, and I am super excited to pick it up. Then number four is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. This is either just fiction or literary fiction. And I've heard so much about it. I just haven't ever picked it up because it is about an octopus, and octopi creep me out. But I've heard so many good things about this one, and you are actually in his head. You get like the point of view from the octopus too. And I've heard that he's charming and just a hoot in regards to his point of view. And then you get other points of view too. So I think I'm going to go ahead and read it, even though the idea of the octopus creeps me out. I'm going to try. Okay, then number five is The Blue Castle. This is by Ellen Montgomery, who wrote one of my all-time favorite series with her Anne of Green Gables series. This is a book by her that I have never read. And so I was like, I need to read it. I want to read all of Ellen Montgomery's books. I've read so many of them, not just the Anne series. Her Emily, I don't remember what it's called now. Emily, that one's more of like it has like a gothic type of vibe to it. Emily of something or other. I don't remember. And then I don't remember what else she's written. But anyway, The Blue Castle, I do want to read that. So that is my number 5 pick. Number 6 is one that I actually do have on me right here. And that is Howl's Moving Castle by Diane Wynne Jones. I've heard so many wonderful whimsical things, or that it's whimsical and fantastic and has a cute love story, all that. I've heard so many good things about it. I've had it on my TBR for a long time, and now that it's on my cart specifically, I want to get to it. I want to prioritize it. And then I know there's 2 other books in the series after that. So if I do end up falling in love with that one, then I will get to those 2. So Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. Then my number 7th pick is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novic. I've heard really good things about the series. It is a trilogy from what I remember. Dark academia type of vibes. I've heard it described as a more grown-up version of Harry Potter a little bit, and I adore Harry Potter. And so I was like, it's another one that's been on my TBR for at least a couple years now, and I'm like, this is going to be the year that I'm going to start the series. Not that I need to start more series, but it is what it is. Okay, after that, I am in the number 8th position is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I know this is going to be heavy and hard for me and will make me cry, I'm sure, which are books I try to avoid, but I've heard so many good things about this book, and I want to try at least one of Kristen Hanna's books. She writes historical fiction, and I felt between this one and The Women, which was another one I was kind of toying with, I feel like The Nightingale will be one that I would like more. And so that's the one I chose. So The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. Then number 9 is another one that's been on my TBR for quite a while, and that is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. And she wrote another series. I'm trying to remember what it is. I cannot remember. I'll put it down here for you guys once I remember. But another series where I read, I think, the first book, and I liked it fine, but I never continued the series. I've heard like more like better things like about Strange the Dreamer, so that's why I'm making it a priority, that it has, again, those whimsical kind of dreamlike qualities to the book, and so I'm excited to pick that one up. Number 10 is, I wanted a cozy fantasy to add to this list. And so I've been researching different cozy fantasies that are on my TBR, and I was like, I think I'll do this one. And that is The House Witch. And this is by the author, I'm probably going to butcher this name, but I think it's maybe Delham Hawk or Delham Hatch. I don't know. You'll see in the graphic the name, so you'll see what I'm trying to pronounce. I apologize to anyone that knows how to pronounce it. I apologize to the author. But that one looks like it's super cute. From what I've read, it's a really cute, cozy fantasy. Then number 11 is a middle grade, a children's classic, actually. And that is The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint. This is another name I'm going to butcher because I do not speak French. Exemplary, something like that. It's a classic. I've wanted to read it for a long time, and I was like, let me prioritize that for 2025. So The Little Prince. I've seen like the animated version. I think I've seen a live action version too of it, but I want to read the actual book. After that, in the 12th spot is Garden Spells by Sarah Addison Allen. I did have that as far as my TBR goes. I think in the month of October, I did pick it up from the library, or maybe it was September. I think it was actually September, but I never got around to reading it. But I do want to read one book, at least one of her books. And so I know that one's kind of her most well-known. And so I figured that I would put it on the list so it would hopefully get me to read it during the month of 2025. Or not the month, the year of 2025. Okay, number 13 is A Man Called Ove. I'm pretty sure that's how you say his name, by Frederick Bachman. So Frederick Bachman has written a lot of books. I know he has one of his book series is a Showtime or HBO, and that's Beartown. A Man Called, they didn't say Ove in the movie, but there's a movie version of the book, but he had a different name with Tom Hanks starred in it. I never watched the movie. I wanted to read the book first before I bothered watching the movie. But anyway, I've heard it's really good and I'm excited to get to it. So I've never read a Frederick Bachman book before, and I decided this would be a good one to start that journey with. Okay, in the 14th spot is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I tried to read her Mr. Norrell. I can't remember what it's called. I don't remember. Something, Doctor Strange and Mr. Norrell, or Norrell. Couldn't get into that one. But I've heard great things about this, even though people are like, we don't want to spoil really what it's about. It's better to go into it kind of blind, but I know it's a fantasy type of book that takes place in this house, and there's a mystery and that sort of thing. So that's all I really know about it, but so many people are saying it's amazing, and so I want to see what all the fuss is about. I'm excited to get to it. And then my number 15 book is The Count of Monte Cristo, and so another classic by Alexander Dumas. And this is another one where I have seen movie versions, but I've never actually read the book, so I want to make this one a priority in 2025. And this is about a guy that was wrongfully accused of a crime, and he ends up getting out of jail, I know, after however many years in prison, and he decides to plot his revenge on those that did him wrong. So it should be good. I'm excited to pick it up. In the number 16th spot, I have The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery by Gabrielle Zevin. She wrote Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, I think is what it's called, which I haven't read either. But of her books, even though that one's kind of more well known, this was one that felt like would be one that I would like better. And so it feels like one that would be right up my alley. Number 17 is The Liar's Crown, which is the first book in, I think it's a trilogy, by Abigail Owen. She wrote a book that just came out in 2024, The Games Gods Play, which I do want to read as well. I never got to it when I picked it up a few months ago, and I decided to go ahead and do the Liar's Crown trilogy first because it is completed, and whereas The Games Gods Play, it was the first in a brand new series. The second book, I think, comes out this year, but I was like, let me read one by her that is already ready to go fully. That way, if I do really enjoy these books, then I know that I probably will enjoy her new series. Okay, after that, in my number 18 book is The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. This is a fantasy series, and I've heard really good things about it. I'm not exactly sure what it is about. I read the synopsis back in the day a couple years ago when it first came out, and I added it to my Goodreads TBR, and I was like, ooh, that sounds really good. But since then, I haven't looked really closely to the synopsis because I want to kind of keep it a surprise, but I do know it's a fantasy. I think about 2 different worlds, and I could be completely wrong. And it's in the title, it talks about books. So of course I'm going to find it appealing. So that is number 18 out of 25. Number 19 is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I still haven't read a book by her. This is the one that has gotten a lot of hype in the last year or so, and I want to prioritize it. I know it's part of a series, but they're kind of standalone books as well, even though they're part of a series. I think you do see some characters from one book in another possibly, but this is the one specifically that I want to read of that series. So yes, that is Just for the Summer. In the 20th spot is a book in the Inheritance Games series saga, whatever you want to call it. It is The Grandest Game by Jennifer Lyn Barnes. I did have it. I did pick it up a couple of months ago to read. Didn't get it done before I had to return the book to the library. So I was like, I don't want to forget about it. So it's going on my 25 books for 2025 list. So The Grandest Game. This is like the 5th book, I think, in the series overall. There's the original trilogy. Then there was the Brothers Hawthorne. And then I think The Grandest Game. And then there's also like another book called Games Untold that is a different stories about different people in the games or something like that. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get to this one. I've had a really good time with the other ones. Okay, then we have The Untold Story by Genevieve Cogman, which is the final book in the Invisible Library series. It's the 8th book. I am very excited to finish the series, a little sad at the same time to be completing it. I've had a really good time with this whole series. I do highly recommend it. If you haven't ever heard of it, it is about a lady. She's, I don't know, probably 30, in her 30s, late 20s, early 30s, possibly, who is a librarian for what's called the Invisible Library, and they keep balance between worlds. So there are worlds in that there's different versions of our world type of thing. Some lean more chaos and others more order. And there's dragons and fae and kind of like time travel and all different sort of thing. It's wonderful. Fantasy. A lot of the time it's like categorized in the sci-fi section, but to me it feels more fantasy, even though it kind of has that time travel element a little bit, because different versions of different worlds are at different points in time type of thing. It's kind of why I think they put it in the sci-fi category, but highly, highly recommend the series. The first book is called The Invisible Library. And this book, this Untold Story, is the final book. So I'm excited to get to it this year. Then in the number 20, oh no, that was 21. So 22 is Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales by Heather Fawcett. This is the final, I'm pretty sure this is going to be the final book in the Emily Wilde series, the Encyclopedia of Fairy series. Loved the first 2 books, especially the second book. If you watch my best books of 2024, that one is mentioned in that. Go back and watch that video if you haven't seen it yet. That one may or may not be in that book, may be in that video as well. So definitely go back and watch that. I'm so excited for the 3rd and final book, or what I think is the final book. Such a fun book, such a fun series. I mean, Emily Wilde is a great character. They live in this world. It's historical fantasy. Historical fantasy. There's a little bit of romance. It has cozy vibes to it. and it's about this professor from England, and she studies fairies. So fairies are real in our world, and she studies them. And she, in the first book, goes to this island way up north to find out about these fairies that no one has ever seen. But she's going to find them. They've been rumored, but no one's actually ever seen them. So she goes there, things happen, hijinks happen. There's another character, he's a professor as well, named Wendell Bamblebee, and he is like the opposite of Emily. Emily is kind of a curmudgeonly, give me my books and I don't need to deal with people type of person. And he's like the opposite of her. And their dealings with one another is always so fun. So I'm super, super excited for the third book, Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales. In, let's see, number 23 is a second book in a series, and it is The Geographer's Guide to Romance by India Holton. The first book in the series is my mind just went blank, The Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love. So this is the second book in the series, and it is about different characters, though. It is one of the characters is the main characters from the first one, the male main characters in the first book. It's about his cousin. And it looks like it is going to be a super fun time. I absolutely loved the first book. Had great banter, laugh out loud moments, great romance, and it had that whimsical, magical fantasy element to it too. So I'm excited to pick up this one. I think it comes out in May, if I'm remembering right, May or June, something around then. So that's The Geographer's Guide to Romance. Excuse me. Number 24 is a middle grade book, and I think this came out in 2024, if I'm remembering right. It is called Impossible Creatures by Catherine Rendell. This has gotten a lot of accolades, I know. It's one that looks super whimsical, fantastical, about, I know, magical creatures and something that happens. I'm not too sure about the premise. I just know that it looked really good from the cover. I am one that judges a book by its cover, but then I do take time to read what the synopsis and stuff is about. But that's what will draw me to a book to begin with, is if it has a beautiful cover or something and that's appealing to me. It'll make me look at what the synopsis is about. But then I do take time to actually look at the synopsis and anything. But anyway, this has a lot of accolades that it's gotten in regards to middle grade. I've heard it's a great book, and so it's one that I do want to prioritize for 2025. And then the last book I have out of all the 25 books I want to read in 2025 is Sips Worth by Simon Van Boy. And this, I've heard, is about an older lady who lives alone, and she ends up like adopting a mouse or something like that. It looks like a super heartwarming, heartfelt type of tale, and it just seems like one that I will love for sure. Something that gives me that type of heartwarming vibe is just usually something that is right up my alley. So I definitely want to get to that one too. I've heard such good things about it. So that's it, you guys. Those are 25 books I do want to read in 2025. Hopefully I can get to them. Of course, I will be picking up other books as well. Stay tuned for my library book haul that I have coming up. And, picking my TBR for the month of January. I will have that. And December book wrap up I will have coming up too. So lots of good bookish content coming up for you. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. Tell me down in the comments, what books are you looking to prioritize for the month of, or for the year of 2025. Excuse me. And yeah, I want to know all of those things. Did you meet a reading goal in 2024? If you have a video for your 2025 books, let me know that too. I'd love to watch and support other bookish channels. And I appreciate all of you guys. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, TTFN. Ta-ta for now.